You confused rock bottom with the end. You think this is the end, that where you are right now defines what your life is going to be. You look at your situation, your mistakes, your current results, and you interpret all of it as proof that you failed. But rock bottom is not the end. It is exposure. It is the moment where everything that was hidden becomes visible. Your patterns, your habits, your decisions, your mindset. Everything is right in front of you, without distraction, without illusion. The problem is not being at the bottom. The problem is how you interpret it. From a psychological perspective, when you label your situation as the end, your brain shuts down possibility. It stops looking for solutions because it believes there are none. And when that happens, you stay stuck. Not because you cannot move, but because you convinced yourself there is nowhere to go. But rock bottom has something that higher points do not have. Clarity. When everything falls apart, you can finally see what is not working. The habits that led you here, the decisions you avoided, the patterns you kept repeating. And that clarity is powerful, if you use it. Because this is not where things end. This is where illusions end. And once illusions are gone, you have something real to work with. The question is not, why am I here? The real question is, now that I see it clearly, what am I going to do next? Because rock bottom is not a final destination, it is a starting point. You lost control of your direction. You did not end up here overnight, you drifted. At some point, you stopped deciding where you were going. You stopped setting direction, stopped being intentional, and started reacting to whatever came next. One decision at a time, small and almost invisible, but consistent enough to move you away from where you wanted to be. That is how most people fall. Not through one big mistake, but through a lack of direction. From a psychological perspective, when you do not define a clear path, your brain defaults to what is easiest. Immediate comfort, familiar behavior, short-term relief. And over time, those small choices compound into outcomes you did not plan. The problem is that drifting feels harmless in the moment. Skipping one effort, delaying one decision, avoiding one responsibility. It does not seem like much, but repeated over time, it becomes your trajectory. And eventually, you look around and do not recognize where you are. The habit here is reclaiming direction. You need to decide where you are going, clearly. Not vaguely, not emotionally, but specifically. What you are building, what you are changing, what you are moving toward. Because once direction is clear, your decisions start to align. You stop reacting and start choosing. Right now, the issue is not that you cannot move forward. It is that you have not defined where forward is. And without direction, any movement feels like progress, even when it is not. The moment you take back control of your direction is the moment you stop drifting. And when you stop drifting, everything begins to change. You let your emotions dictate your life. At some point, you stopped leading your life and started following your emotions. If you felt good, you acted. If you felt tired, uncertain, or overwhelmed, you stopped. And little by little, your decisions became reactions. This is how control is lost. Emotions are powerful, but they are not designed to guide long-term direction. They are temporary states, constantly changing. If your actions depend on them, your life becomes inconsistent. From a neurological perspective, emotional responses come fast. They are driven by the limbic system, focused on immediate reactions, not long-term outcomes. When you act based only on how you feel, you sacrifice stability for impulse. The problem is that emotions feel convincing. When you do not feel like doing something, it feels like a valid reason to stop. But it is not. It is just a moment. And when you follow that moment repeatedly, it becomes a pattern. The habit here is separation. You feel, but you do not automatically obey. When resistance appears, you recognize it, but you still act. Not aggressively, not blindly, but intentionally. You move even when you do not feel ready. Because every time you act despite your emotions, you take control back. And every time you follow them without question, you lose it. Rock bottom is often the result of emotional decisions repeated over time. And the way out is not by eliminating emotions, but by no longer letting them lead. Control returns when action is no longer dictated by how you feel, but by what you decide. You stopped taking responsibility. At some point, you started looking outside for explanations. The situation, other people, bad timing, lack of opportunities. And while some of these may be real, focusing on them slowly removed your power. Because the moment you believe that your life is controlled by external factors, you stop acting. You wait, you justify, you explain, but you do not change. From a psychological perspective, this is the shift to an external locus of control. It makes you passive, it makes you reactive, and over time, it keeps you stuck in the same place. Responsibility changes that, not as blame, but as control. Taking responsibility means recognizing that, regardless of what happened, your response is still yours. Your actions, your decisions, your direction. These are within your control, even when everything else is not. The problem is that responsibility feels heavy, because it removes excuses. It forces you to look at what you did not do, what you avoided, what you allowed to continue. But at the same time, it gives you something powerful, the ability to change. The habit here is ownership. Stop asking, why did this happen? And start asking, what can I do now? That shift moves you from explanation to action, because as long as you stay focused on what is outside of you, nothing changes. But the moment you take full responsibility, everything becomes something you can influence. And that is where your way out begins. You built destructive daily patterns. You did not fall to rock bottom in one moment. You built your way there, day by day. Small decisions, repeated consistently. Skipping what mattered, choosing what was easy, delaying what was necessary. None of it seemed significant at the time. But patterns do not need to be dramatic to be powerful. They just need to be consistent. From a neurological perspective, repetition creates automatic behavior. The more you repeat something, the less effort it requires. Over time, your actions stop being decisions and start being defaults. This is how destructive patterns take over. You do not think about them anymore. You just follow them. The problem is that daily patterns compound. One small negative habit does not seem like much, but repeated over weeks and months, it shapes your results, your mindset, and your direction. And eventually, you arrive at a point where everything reflects those patterns. The habit here is awareness and interruption. You need to identify the patterns that are pulling you down. Not vaguely, but specifically. What you do daily that keeps you stuck. Then you break them. Not all at once, but deliberately. Replace one behavior, then another. Shift your daily structure, even in small ways. Because your life is not built by big moments. It is built by repeated actions. And if your daily patterns are destructive, your results will be too. Rock bottom is not random. It is the outcome of patterns. And if patterns got you here, patterns can get you out. You isolated without growing. You pulled away, but you did not evolve. Isolation can be powerful when it is intentional. It can give you space to think, to reset, to rebuild. But what most people call isolation is not strategy. It is avoidance. You disconnected, but you filled that space with the same patterns, the same thoughts, the same habits, the same loops. So nothing actually changed. You were alone, but not improving. From a psychological perspective, isolation without direction amplifies your current state. If your thinking is negative, it becomes more intense. If your habits are weak, they become more consistent. Because there is nothing interrupting them. The problem is that isolation feels like progress. It feels like you are taking a step back to reflect. But if there is no structure, no intention, no change in behavior, it is just stagnation in a quieter environment. The habit here is strategic solitude. If you step away, it needs to have a purpose. Reflection, planning, rebuilding, not escape. Use that time to analyze your patterns, redefine your direction, and implement new behaviors. Not just think, but act differently. Because being alone does not fix anything by itself. Growth only happens when isolation is used as a tool, not as a hiding place. If you isolate without evolving, you are not resetting, you are repeating. You fed your mind the wrong inputs. What you repeatedly expose yourself to becomes your mental environment. And your mental environment shapes how you think, how you feel, and how you act. If your inputs are negative, chaotic, and shallow, your mindset will reflect that. Constant exposure to fear, comparison, distraction, and low-level thinking slowly conditions your brain to operate at that level. From a neurological perspective, your brain adapts to patterns. What you see and hear frequently becomes familiar, and what is familiar starts to feel normal, even if it is harmful. The problem is that most of this happens passively. You scroll, you watch, you listen, without questioning how it is affecting you. But every piece of content is leaving a trace. Over time, those traces become your default way of thinking. The habit here is filtration. You need to become selective about what you allow into your mind. Not everything deserves your attention. Not everything deserves your focus. Ask yourself, is this strengthening my thinking or weakening it? If it is not helping you grow, it is likely pulling you down. Start replacing passive consumption with intentional input, content that challenges you, expands your perspective, and pushes you toward action. Because your mindset is not only built internally, it is constantly shaped externally. And if you keep feeding your mind the wrong inputs, you will keep getting the same results. You avoided the necessary pain. You tried to escape what you were supposed to face. Every situation that could have forced you to grow, you avoided. Every discomfort that required effort, you delayed. Every moment that demanded responsibility, you softened. And over time, that avoidance accumulated. Pain is not optional in growth. It is required. From a psychological and neurological perspective, adaptation only happens under stress. When you face resistance, your brain is forced to adjust. New patterns are created. New behaviors are learned. But if you constantly avoid that pressure, nothing changes. The problem is that avoidance feels like relief. In the moment, it reduces tension. It makes things easier. But that ease is temporary, and the cost is long-term stagnation. Every time you escape necessary pain, you push growth further away. And eventually, that avoidance creates a larger problem than the original discomfort. That is how you end up here. Not because you faced too much pain, but because you avoided the pain that mattered. The habit here is acceptance and movement. You stop running from discomfort and start moving through it. Not blindly, but intentionally. You face what needs to be faced, even when it is uncomfortable. Because the pain you avoid now will return later, usually stronger. But the pain you face now transforms you. Rock bottom often comes from accumulated avoidance. And the way out is through the very discomfort you have been trying to escape. You waited instead of acting. You kept waiting for something to change. The right moment, the right feeling, the right opportunity. You told yourself things would get better with time. But time does not fix anything by itself. Time only amplifies patterns. If your actions do not change, your results do not change. Waiting feels passive, but it is not neutral. While you wait, the same behaviors continue, the same habits repeat, and the same outcomes reinforce themselves. From a psychological perspective, waiting is often disguised avoidance. It protects you from making difficult decisions. It gives you the illusion that progress is happening, when in reality, nothing is moving. The problem is that waiting feels safe. Acting requires risk. It exposes you to failure, uncertainty, and discomfort. So your mind chooses delay. But delay has a cost. Every moment you wait is a moment where nothing improves. And over time, that inaction becomes your pattern. The habit here is immediate action, not perfect action, not complete clarity, but movement. You start with what you have, where you are. You take the step, even if it is small. Because action creates feedback. Feedback creates clarity. And clarity allows you to adjust, Waiting creates nothing. Rock bottom is not just the result of wrong actions. It is also the result of no action. And the moment you stop waiting and start moving is the moment things begin to shift. You haven't decided to change yet. This is the hardest truth in this entire process. You say you want to change, but you have not actually decided to change. There is a difference. Wanting is passive. It is comfortable. It allows you to imagine a different life without confronting what is required to build it. But a decision is different. A real decision removes alternatives. From a psychological perspective, as long as change is optional, your brain will always choose what is familiar, because familiar is safe. Even if it keeps you stuck, it is predictable. That is why nothing fully shifts. You try, you start, you stop. You move a little, then return. Because deep down, you have not committed. You are still negotiating with your old patterns. A real decision ends that negotiation. It means you no longer ask, "Do I feel like it?" or "Is this the right moment?" You act because it is no longer a choice. It is the direction you have chosen. The habit here is commitment. You define what is no longer acceptable. Not vaguely, but clearly. And once you define it, you stop going back to it. Because as long as you leave the door open, you will walk through it again. Rock bottom is not permanent, but staying there is a result of indecision. Everything changes the moment you stop considering change and start deciding it. And once that decision is real, your actions begin to align with it. That is where the shift happens. Not when you want to change, but when you decide that you will.